Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mary. I'm really excited to talk with you about what it's been like to come into woodworking, having a professional career that is not woodworking, being a mom, and how you balance all of those things. So if you don't mind, let's hear a little bit about yourself and how did you get into woodworking?
Okay, so as you alluded to, I am a certified registered nurse anesthetist. So I started back in 1994, graduating with a bachelor's of science in nursing. I knew I didn't want to stay just a floor nurse, ICU nurse. It's really hard work. Not that what I do now isn't hard work, but I went and got my advanced degree in nurse anesthesiology up at the University of Akron and got a master's degree in that. And I've been a nurse anesthetist or a nurse anesthesiologist since 2004. And so, I've been part-time, part of the time raising 3 kids. We moved to Orlando from Tallahassee, took the full-time position. And then COVID happened and all of the elective surgical cases got cut. So actually, from my profession and my capacity at this job, they actually cut our hours by 50% because all the elective cases were stopped for probably 2 months. So I had all this free time and I don't like sitting around. And so that's when I ended up picking up woodworking. We had just purchased a townhome up in Tallahassee. Our eldest son is in college, and we had decided to, instead of keeping him in the dorms or renting an apartment for him, we decided to make an investment and purchase the townhouse and have a couple of roommates with him. So the townhouse needed some work. We're not super rich or anything, so we had to buy sort of like a fixer-upper, and we had a limited budget to fix it up. So I ended up doing a lot of the renovation myself. It wasn't major renovation. It was mostly cosmetic, changing out floors. But I did use the saw a little bit. And then I wanted to furnish the place, and I didn't want to buy expensive things since, college boys are not particularly careful with things. But I also wanted things that would stand up to college kids and not just be particle board, things that would fall apart. As we have 2 other kids that, over the span of 10 years will be going to college. So I would like for this to actually last throughout all 3 of the children. So that's kind of how I came about it.
Wow. So sounds like you're relatively new to it, but your profession, I mean, you are intubating patients and doing a lot of really skilled handwork and have been doing for a long time. Do you think that's something that drew you to woodworking, was the hand and kind of focus side of it, maybe?
Well, I think, while I was training for anesthesia, I did get lots of comments about how I was really good with my hands, picking up the technical skills like placing invasive lines, putting in, endotracheal tubes and that kind of thing. Perhaps that hand-eye coordination, attention to detail is definitely something that is applicable to woodworking. And maybe that has attributed to like how, I guess, rapidly I've picked up on it, because I really didn't. My first build was my son's desk, and that was in March of last year. And, I sent you a couple of those pictures of my furniture, and, I just posted it online just to share, like, oh, look, I did this. This is really cool. And it blew people away. I was blown away by the response. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but people have been approaching me to build things for them, giving me deposits saying, here, I want you to build this. And I'm like, okay. And I think it's nice. And I wish I could keep some of the stuff, but like, I mean, I'm just amazed at the response. I'm amazed that people are so impressed by it, I guess. So.
Well, that's awesome. I love hearing that you've gotten that kind of response and support. And I'm really interested, what has been your most favorite project to date? Or is it something that you're going to get started on? It sounds like you have some things in the pipeline as well.
Well, I really want to expand this into house flipping. I'd like to, what I really enjoyed actually was renovating that townhouse. And I guess throughout my life, anything like whether it's like my appearance, like I love before and afters. I love like if you're, maybe you're all raggedy, you're ratty looking, or, and then like coming out and being all dressed nice and you've transformed something. And I feel the same way about like a house, like a rundown, old, something that hasn't been taken care of. I love taking that house and bringing it back to life. I love taking a pile of wood that people would be like, oh, it's just a stack of wood, and making something beautiful out of it. There's something about just the transformation of anything, that people would dismiss as like, oh, that's something, and then turning it into something like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I just love that. So
That's amazing. And I love hearing the different directions that people are inspired to go in, whether it's, doing custom kitchen installs or built-in bookshelves or things like that. So you doing the house flipping, that's really exciting. And having more representation for women kind of in construction in general is definitely something that I hear about a lot. So to hear from someone saying, yeah, I'm going to do this is just amazing. So speaks very much to your determination and can-do attitude. So on that topic, is there a particular skill or technique that you're kind of focused on right now, or something you'd like to develop more that would help you kind of with the house flipping or woodworking?
well, I mean, there are so many aspects to a home. I've done like basic wiring, like hanging light fixtures. And I don't know, like we have so many resources today compared to 20 years ago when I first did my first, I guess, light fixture change. Back then it was like looking at a handbook and pictures. And today you've got YouTube, and YouTube is such a valuable resource. And because I'm more of a visual and hands-on person, like I do not do as well reading manuals and reading lists of things to do. So that's definitely helped. And so interestingly enough, we have a Rockler woodworking shop within 15 miles of where I live. And amazingly, like I haven't used a table saw because it scares the bejesus out of me. And I have a router that I've had since Christmas. I got it as a Christmas gift. It's a dual like hand and plunge router. And I haven't used it because I haven't found a video really to help me with those things. And so Rockler is hosting build a cutting board workshop, which I don't really need cutting boards, but the thing about the class description was you're going to get to use a table saw and a router. So I'm going to go to learn how to use those tools and not be so intimidated by it, so that I can utilize those tools for other things, because I know those tools are important for woodworking and building really fine furniture things. And then the other thing that I discovered doing my social media scouting is that there's a school of woodworking in Tampa, and it looks like it's extremely very, very something that I really need to maybe investigate and invest a week in, maybe going down there and really learning how to do joinery and dovetailing and that kind of thing. So It's slow, like, because I work full time as in healthcare, I can't fully get into it, but eventually I will. I'm actually going to be going part-time at my W-2, and I'm picking up contract work, which is going to allow me to free up more time and have more flexibility in my schedule to do this more.
Well, that's awesome. I have to laugh that you're probably right to be afraid of the table saw, and I can tell you've seen a lot of surgeries because table saws are very dangerous, and we all know what
Yeah.
they can do. Very frightening, but it's good to have a healthy respect for them, and there's, use safely. There's a lot of things you can do. So getting to a class like that, that's interesting to hear that you learn that way, because we all learn so differently. And that's really good that you have a resource like Rockler there. I've heard that they've been very, supportive and have really kind of welcoming environments for things like that, like classes and, getting to know how to learn tools. And especially for a lot of beginners, I've heard good things about some of the classes and stuff that they offer there. But to speak on the Florida School of Woodwork, I love Kate. She is the owner and founder, and I've taught there. I taught there last year a virtual course at the beginning of the pandemic. But she engages a lot of women instructors, a lot of just powerhouse talent, and very, very diverse offerings as far as, furniture building or box making or just kind of intro to woodworking courses. So I can't say enough good things about what she's doing there, and also scholarships that she has been offering as well. So definitely worth checking out. But I'm very inspired to hear these things and to hear about your process. It's exciting, when you think about it in that way. Even flipping a house, you're kind of cleaning up a blank canvas again. You're providing possibilities for people, and that's really exciting when you think about it in that way. And to take on really tough jobs. Some of the jobs you listed are really hard to do and are really important to do well, like tile work and things like that. And it does take skill. So I'm very inspired by talking with you in a way that probably a lot of woodworkers don't think about, but this is also a very accessible way that people can get into woodworking and craft and trades that people may not think about. Learn how to fix things around your house. That's a really easy way to get started. And it sounds like that was kind of the way you got into things too, with you said changing a lighting fixture. I don't think I'm even confident enough to do that yet.
It's pretty self-explanatory, and and I guess it's made me able to change light outlets where they've got the USB port outlets built into the outlets, wall outlets. I'm not rewiring a whole house. But to be able to, install a fan or a new light fixture, I think that's important, and not to have to depend on tradesmen to do at least the simple tasks, because, they charge a lot of money and they're extremely busy, and, you could be waiting around, especially in this environment, for months to have something hung. So I don't know, and to me, it's so much fun. When I flipped that townhouse, the kitchen needed some renovation, but we didn't have that in our budget. So we painted the cabinets, and I resurfaced the counter with epoxy. So it was a Formica, one of those old 70s icky, yucky looking, Formica countertops. And I made it look like granite, because you just take pour epoxy over it. And I kind of screwed up the first time because I didn't prep the surface right, and it started bubbling up and I had to peel the whole thing off. Um, and that was a little frustrating, and I thought I completely ruined it. But then I figured out how to do it right, and it has lasted, and it still looks wonderful. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. It was so much fun to do that house, so I want to do it again.
That sounds awesome. So, what would you say has surprised you the most about this? Has it been how much you have enjoyed the process, or has anything else kind of stood out to you as like, oh, well, I didn't expect that when getting into woodworking or some of the renovation work you've done?
Um, I guess the biggest thing, I guess that sort of smacked me in the face, so to say, is I think that I've always wanted to do this. And I just never knew. Like when I was a kid, I would build houses with Legos. That was like something I would always do. And I remember also sketching out house plans when I was like 8 years old. Like this is my dream house. And I would sketch out something and all the rooms and what would be in it. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I had some life events that happened. My parents divorced and separated. And so I guess that dream kind of just like went away. Like it wasn't in the forefront of my mind. But now, being 49 years old, I look back and I was like, wow, I wish that somebody, maybe my parents would have paid attention to those things that I was like really into, that maybe I could have started this earlier. But, I'm only 49. I think that, I've got a lot of time left that this can be actually a career change. Like I really am somewhat burnt out of healthcare. And I actually went into it not because I love nursing, but because I was paying my way through college and I had to get a job that I knew that was going to support myself. So somebody suggested nursing, and the hospital was offering sponsorships. So part of it was paid for. And it was just an easy way for me to know that I was going to be able to support myself. So I've been in this field for 26 years. And I think I do it well. I get feedback saying that I do it well, but it's not really my passion. So I'm kind of ready to try and segue into something where I'm more crafty and more creative.
Very interesting. And to hear your career background, I have worked in healthcare briefly doing marketing and public relations, but my entire family has pretty much worked in healthcare. And so growing up, I was like, that's not for me. Like, I don't, want anything to do with that. Y'all have to work too long, like too hard hours. And I was like, I just need something a little less stressful. But it was interesting once I applied for a job and started working in healthcare full time. I was like, I see why people like it. I see why people get into like the rhythm of healthcare. It's hard to explain. And it really does kind of suck you in, but it's such a commitment, especially on the level that you're having to commit to, and a lot of time and a lot of energy. So it's very interesting to hear your background, and to hear you say that it wasn't necessarily a passion for you, but to be creative would be how wonderful. And you're absolutely right. Part of the reason why I think having conversations like this are so important, you never know who is going to be exposed to this conversation or your work or what we're doing, and inspire them to pick up a tool or say, hey, maybe maybe I should try this out, or I think I might enjoy that. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that exposure, in my case with healthcare, kind of drew me the other direction. But for some of us, like your experience with woodworking and building, so I'm very excited for you to find this and to get back into it and to see and being where you're at also, I think would be a very good market for getting into things like house flipping. It seems like Florida, the housing market is kind of more transient than other areas. Correct me if I'm wrong. But a lot more opportunities for a business like that to thrive in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. In the Orlando area, there's lots of people who move here and then move away. Um, we lived in Tallahassee for, probably 16 years of our life. And that's much more stable, more like a hometown type of small town, not as many people moving in and out because there's not like big businesses there. I mean, they have the Capitol there, but it's not like here with Disney and Lockheed Martin and that type of thing. But it's funny because I feel like I know the market up in Tallahassee, the real estate market up in Tallahassee better than here. But there's just so many people and there's so many pockets of neighborhoods here that and they're changing rapidly. It's very hard to keep up here. So, but we're keeping our eyes open. And there's a neighborhood downtown Sanford that has a lot of older buildings, like early 1900s. I would love to get one of those and really renovate it to what it used to be. And that was actually on one of my papers. I think I wrote it when I was 20 years old. What I want to do in 25 years or have accomplished in 25 years. I made a list, and that was on my list. Renovate an old house.
That's amazing. And, you could be doing woodwork out of, the building while you're doing it,
Exactly.
You know, I'm all for it. I love that. That just kind of gave me chills whenever you said that. So I hope that you're able to get that building. And there's a lot of people actually that do that. And we live outside of Charleston and live very rurally. And so that's, we were able to build, and we built the first floor of our house as our workshop. And then we have a small, 2-bedroom living space upstairs. And it's definitely one of those things too. At first you think, oh, am I going to be able to separate myself from work? Well, you really don't want to. And being able to have that kind of instant access to your equipment or, whatever you're working on, or just being around in that environment. And that was something else that, speaking with other craftspeople or, people that did, metalwork and things like that, just being able to get in and out of that, creative, or your workshop, whatever area it is. But being able to kind of renovate the space at the same time is kind of like a double whammy of inspiration that you've got going on there. So that's really neat. That's a very good idea. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice to get an old house and then renovate it, and it would be my shop and maybe the storefront or something like that. Or even, I don't know if they have them in Charleston, but Florida has a lot of mid-century architecture, and some of those old-fashioned, what do you call it, full-service gas stations. Like, I imagine there's a lot of those that are run down, and like that would be really cool to maybe get one of those. The lobby area where you would go in and get your soda pop and pay for your gas, that could be the shop area, and then the garage area would be where the woodworking and all that stuff would be happening. I don't know. I just think that would be super, super cool to find something like that and renovate it to that kind of usage. So
that's such a great idea. And I could see something like, being in an area like Orlando, something like that being really appealing to people that are coming in and out. And then also, I think even to locals, I've had a few friends live in the area, there are a lot of people that live and work there. It's not just all vacation all the time. There are people that actually have to make that happen and live in the area. And so that sounds like that would be a fun hangout spot. I would want to come hang out there at least. So, well,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, do you have any tips or suggestions for busy moms, that want to make things, whether they have a career or they stay at home and are taking care of kids, or both, all of the above, which is usually what we're all always doing, especially these days. The lines are so blurred for us. Are you a teacher? Are you this? Are you that? It depends on the time of day, I guess. But any tips for people that want to get into woodworking or making, but have a full-time job or commitment already?
Well, if you have the option to go part-time, I would do it. I wouldn't worry about if you financially can handle it, because it works itself out. I really believe that you work into the income that you make. Like I said, I've worked part-time, I've worked full-time. I don't feel like the disposable income is really much different. Even though I'm making twice as much as I did because I'm full-time, the more you make, the more you spend. The most valuable thing that you have is your time. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, you cannot replace your time. So if you have a passion and you want to make things, and whether it's just for your home and your family, or if you want to share it with the community, like with the kids at school, or a team that your son or daughter's on, a sporting team, and you want to share your talent, like by making t-shirts or making water bottles, or if they're in theater and you want to help make the sets for their play that year, I would take the time, cut back on your job and dedicate some of that time to that, because people will obviously see your maker talent and be like, hey, you do that. Hey, can you make something for me? And you just don't ever know that somebody's going to approach you and say, I'll pay you to do this. You do really good work. And you just never know that it may turn into your hobby, may turn into something that you love to do, and it's a career. Which is kind of what I'm hoping this turns into, because I much like this. I really enjoy doing this. Like I could do this all day long. Renovating that townhouse, I would get up at 3:00 in the morning and work until 9 p.m. And it'd be like, oh, it's already 9 o'clock at night. Like I've been working 18 hours straight. I didn't even realize it. So yeah, you take the time. Time is valuable. That's my biggest, I guess, advice.
No, and that's wonderful advice. And my mother-in-law, bless her, we're very fortunate to have family that sees and supports us, in our dreams. But some of the best advice she's ever given us or me is, time or money. You have to pick one or the other. And just like you said, time is that one thing that money can't buy. And that's always been really important to us. And you're absolutely right. When you find that that thing that stirs your passion, that turns an 18-hour day into, a delight, you do make up the difference, and you find ways to make it work. And you're so driven. It does balance itself out, because you are working 18-hour days. You're bound to find success or an opportunity of some sort when you're putting that much intention behind it, I think. So I think that's wonderful advice. So are you still there? You just cut out. I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose you. Hello? All right. Awesome.
Sorry about
No,
that.
that's okay. No, I was just saying that was just really good advice about the time or money. And I also wanted to make a joke that for you, being a nurse anesthetist, like 18-hour days are probably like a mile day for you and probably what you're used to working. So thank you. I think that was some great advice. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? I loved hearing that you wrote 20 plus years ago that you wanted to be doing this now. Where would you like to be, let's say 5 years from today?
How many years you said again? 5 or 6?
Yes, just five or six.
Well, I hope to be retired from healthcare for sure. My daughter is, she'll be graduating from high school in 5 years. So my husband and I have actually spoken about maybe traveling, getting an RV and doing anesthesia contract work. I'm not sure if that's actually what we're going to do, but I told my husband, I said, this is how I set my goals. I set goals that are, I don't know, hold on just a second, that are like Mount Everest goals. And then if I manage to make a goal that's, say, Mount Hood goals, then I feel like I'm successful. Like, I never look at making a goal that's super high and I don't reach it. I never view that as a failure. I always make really super high goals in anticipation that maybe I'll make it 1/3 of the way and I'll be really happy with that. So, whether or not we actually end up buying an RV and traveling the country and doing contract work, I don't know. But I don't want to be tied down to our house, and I want to be able to hike and travel and explore while my joints and my body allow me to, which, we're not getting any younger. My husband's going to be 59 in 5 years. So like I said, you can't buy time and you can't get it back. So we gotta do things while we can. So I want to retire early. I don't want to wait until I'm 64 to retire. So
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Follow your passions today.
Yeah.
I think that's wise. And if anything, these, living in these times have taught us, like you said, time is very precious. So wonderful. Well, Mary, how can people connect with you and see more of your work? It sounds like you're pretty busy, but how can people connect with you on social media and online?
Okay. Well, I have a Facebook business page. That's my primary way that people get a hold of me. The Artistic Edge Woodworks and Design. And then I also have an Instagram page under the same name. I do have a website, but I don't really keep up with it because I'm not, I guess, set up or prepared, nor do I have the time to do online orders. I prefer to talk with my clients, ask them what they want, and work on one piece at a time. I don't want to have like a bunch of orders piling up on a computer and may not be able to talk with the people and see exactly what they want and communicate with them. Like, I do have some limitations time wise, and sometimes because I don't use a table saw, sometimes dimension wise. So I want to communicate with people and with each piece that I build. So the best ways are Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to look at my website, you can. It's on a Wix site, but it's available on my Facebook and Instagram page.
Awesome. Yes. And it's amazing how almost redundant sometimes websites are becoming, because you can do so much more easily with social media, especially pages like business pages on Facebook and Instagram, which was, I think, how we connected. So
Yes.
wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mary. It has been a pleasure to talk with you, and best of luck. I hope to see you either traveling the country or doing woodwork, flipping houses full time in 5 years.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you being able to let me speak and talk about everything. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I may have mentioned to you before, this is why I love this project. And having newcomers or veterans or house flippers or wood turners, I think we all have something to offer. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
okay. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.